Can you hear us there in Carson City?
Governor, this is Chris Sewell. Yes, we can.
Okay. If everybody's ready, we will proceed today's meeting of the GOED, Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development, scheduled for today, May 23rd of 2024 at 2 p.m. And Melanie will kick off the roll call.
Thank you. Melanie Sheldon for the record. Governor Joe Lombardo,
Present.
Lieutenant Governor Douglas Anthony,
Here.
Secretary of State Francisco Aguilera.
Here.
Dr. Weldon Havens,
Here.
Ms. Sasha Stevenson. Present. Thank you. Mr. Jay Barrett.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Yolanda King.
Present.
Mr. Ray Specht.
Present.
Thank you. Chancellor Chartam couldn't make it today. Mr. Chris Sewell.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Joni Burt.
Present.
Thank you. And Dr. Chris Sanchez.
Present.
Thank you, Governor. We have a quorum.
All right. Bear with me a second. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, the first opportunity for public comment. Persons wishing to provide public comment remotely may access the meeting by telephone or through the Teams link posted on the agenda. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Public comment will be available at the beginning of the meeting and as the last item on the agenda. The telephone call, if you wish to call in, is 775-321-6111. The meeting ID number is 626-681-836 and the pound symbol. Do we have anybody there for public comment in Carson City?
No, we do not, Governor.
Do we have anybody here in Las Vegas, public comment? What about the young lady here? Yeah, no, she doesn't have public comment. All right, do we have anybody online or on the phone? Nobody?
No, Governor.
All right, well, we'll close public comment, move on to agenda item number 3, approval of the March 21st, 2024 board meeting minutes. Do we have any questions or concerns by any board member? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval. So moved.
Second. Havens.
That was Cisco Aguilar that made the motion, Mr. Aguilar. We have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against, nay? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 4, Executive Director's Update and Director's Report from Mr. Tom Burns, Executive Director of GOED.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor, and board members. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your attendance. As the final stage of the UNR University Center of Economic Development's Tech Hub Phase 2 application, Nevada Lithium Batteries and Other EV Materials Loop, following its Tech Hub designation award in 2023, the Economic Development Agency conducted an extensive virtual visit on April 22nd. GOED was represented by Carson Scheetz, Senior Director of Strategic Programs and Innovation, and EDA Tech Hub Component Head Lead for Commercialization and Entrepreneurship to participate in the team's presentation. The Tech Hub Consortium expects an answer from the EDA by the summer on whether its application for up to $75 million for a grant for a period of 5 years will be successful. UNR held a 2-day Nevada Lithium Circular Economic Conference as part of its 2023 National Science Foundation Engines Development Award. GOED Deputy Director Bob Potts participated in the opening fireside chat with NSF Jeffrey Brown, PhD, Program Director with the NSF CHIP Directorate. GOED's Carson Scheetz, co-principal and investigator on the project, moderated the economic development breakout session, Nevada Battery Supply Chain Challenges and Opportunities. Hines participated in a closeout to the conference and panel on workforce and economic development in Nevada's new innovation ecosystems with representatives from Truckee Meadows Community College, Tesla, and the UNR University Center of Economic Development. NSF Engine's timeline was released in the NSF Regional Innovations Engine Program solicitation, and the development award team advancing the circular economy of lithium batteries is preparing to submit a letter of intent by June 18th and associated preliminary proposal by August 6th. If invited, the proposal would be due on February 11th, 2025. Hearts Heights is the co-PI on the project. Currently, the team is conducting intensive weekly strategy sessions to prepare the proposal for the writing stage. GOED's Nevada Apex Accelerator Division received another formal cooperative agreement from the U.S. Department of Defense. The cost sharing agreement, which is valued at about $924,000, is to continue operations of Apex Accelerator from April 16th, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. That just aligns us with the current dates of all of the other agreements that the Department of Defense has. The Apex team provides governmental procurement technical assistance to Nevada businesses seeking to make bids or proposals with local, state, and federal levels. During the National Small Business Week, the Apex program learned that two of its clients recently won major awards. Empower Products, headquartered in Las Vegas, won the U.S. Small Business Administration's 2024 Nevada Veteran-Owned Small Business Award of the Year. Fire Electric, also based in Las Vegas, won the SBA's Nevada Minority Small Business of the Year Award. This program continues to grow the Apex team and a direct reflection of how the program is positively impacting Nevada businesses with its assistance. The Office of Entrepreneurship has been coordinating closely with the Secretary of State's business licensing redevelopment efforts through its overhaul of Silver Plume. Work has also begun on the state's regional development authorities and Nevada Small Business Development Authority to advance interactive resource and networking, a portal to address the needs of Nevada startups and small businesses. Truckee Meadows Community College Advanced Manufacturing Training, dubbed the Panasonic Center, opened on April 9th with help of multiple state agencies, including GOED, DEETR, and NCHI. With a $1.64 million investment kickstarting a training initiative to meet the needs of Panasonic Energy's North America operations, which will create hundreds of jobs that pay between $25 and $32 an hour. The 10,000 square foot facility increases the training opportunities in advanced manufacturing, production systems, automation, and robotics. GOED's WINN funds were used to develop the classroom and land spaces, purchase specialized equipment for the training center, and provide staffing for the next 2 years engagement. In March, it was announced that the American film market would move from Santa Monica home for over 40 years to the Palms Hotel in Las Vegas for the upcoming November 2024 event. As a business-oriented marketplace, AFM gathers industry professionals from all over the world to develop, discover, finance, and license thousands of independent films. The Nevada Film Office is partnering with the organizers of AFM and the Independent Film and Television Alliance, as well as the Palms, on cross-promotion and marketing opportunities to showcase the Silver State. I want to also add that the Palms has been a great partner in accepting us there and providing us a great opportunities to move forward. The Nevada Film Office successfully brought two significant productions to film the state, a feature film that is set in Las Vegas starring Al Pacino. That's been reformulated, scheduled to film in New Jersey, but the Nevada Film Office attracted the production to Nevada, resulting in hundreds of jobs and $7.4 million in local spending. The popular reality show Queer Eye, which attracts millions of viewers on Netflix, is also filming in Las Vegas. The show will focus on 10 Las Vegas residents and businesses and attractions throughout the region, driving tourism to the state. The Nevada Main Street program recently added Moapa Valley, which includes Logandale and Overton, to its Main Street streets. The program continues to grow and currently has 27 participants across the state. In healthcare space, GOED Health Industry Specialist Van Sparrow co-hosted the Cambridge Health Development Corporation on a multi-tour site of Southern Nevada land assets. Cambridge is currently in negotiation with the city of North Las Vegas for development of its 135-acre site adjacent to the Nevada Veterans Affairs to build a medical treatment and research campus inclusive of primary and specialty care, along with housing and other ancillary businesses to create an ecosystem of wellness. GOED is pleased to announce that Mod Garden is an organic vertical farming company from Austin, Texas, which will be a welcome addition to the Zero Labs launch pad of Cohort 2 at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas's Black Fire Innovation Center. The CEO of Mod Garden was previously hosted as a component of a multi-company bioscience delegation to Nevada in January. In international trade in April, the GOED International team co-hosted a successful Japan business webinar with the Japan External Trade Organization and the Consul General of Japan's San Francisco office. GOED highlighted its 5-year strategic plan, including Nevada's favorable tax environment, abatement structure, and recently designated as a tech hub. For Japanese, they also have the ability, Konami Gaming, Panasonic, NTT, and Sega Sammy presented the positive businesses experiences in the Silver State. I will say I'm going to skip the second paragraph as presented to you under the international, as that's been reformulated. We will promise to get back to you when we have an update. The GOED International team is actively working with the Nevada DMV and the Southern Korean Consul General's Office of Los Angeles to create a license reciprocity agreement. Currently, GOED is awaiting revised language from the Consul General's Office to review with Nevada DMV. I want to take this opportunity to thank Director Tanya Lenny from DMV. She and her team have been very responsive and cooperative in this effort, and it's all very much appreciated. Finally, Germany's coordinator for transatlantic cooperation and a member of Parliament, Honorary Michael Lipp, MP, along with the German Consulate General in Los Angeles, Andreas Sass, visited Carson City on March 27th. Deputy Director Potts, Director of Strategic Program and Initiative and Innovations, Carson Heinz, Communications Director Charlie Smith, International Business Development Director Amanda Fulcini, and the Government Affairs Manager Steve Wood and I met with the delegation in the WINN room at the Nevada State Capitol. Governor, I can please on the floor.
Thank you, Director. Do any board members have questions of Director Burns' report or any feedback? Okay, for the record, Governor Lombardo, I have a couple questions here, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Back under healthcare.
Yeah.
This is in your second bullet, a reference Mod Garden.
Yes, sir.
You better explain that.
Yeah, they are a startup company that
Oh, okay.
has the ability to create in high-rise hotels, for instance, you could grow they have a garden that will attach to your wall, and you could grow crops or herbs in your apartment. They also have the ability to do it in large warehouses and perhaps present specialty lettuces or other vegetables to the restaurant community here in Southern Nevada.
Well, okay. So they're promoting their product, not necessarily setting up a farm.
No, they are. They're actually they are a startup. Their technology is based out of Austin, Texas, but their real R&D is going to be happening here at the Innovation Center as they get moving.
So it's R&D. So it's nothing that's gonna be in conflict with our current water restrictions.
No, they're very. No, they're not. It is very water-wise technology.
And the other question is under international trade. Explain this reciprocity with South Korea.
Yeah, they're
License, what is the purpose and how is that working?
Yeah, so there are 22 countries in the United States internationally that have reciprocity with the state of Nevada. So specifically, Taiwan was the model language used in this one. So if you're a citizen of Taiwan and you come here, you can, for instance, rent a car. And so you can imagine as we're recruiting South Korean executives to come here and place their businesses here and move their executives here, the inability to drive for just it's a temporary residency. And so it would be ability to do that. And so the Taiwanese language and the South Korean language are very, very similar as how they administer those laws. So we were able to.
Is that somebody online trying to talk to us? That's not Tanya from DMV?
Nicole just muted herself.
Oh, okay. So so I guess they do the research on their driving qualifications, right?
Yes, they still have standards they have to apply to.
They all drive on the same side of the street?
They do there.
Is your report an action item?
It is not, sir.
It's not, that's right. All right, if there are any further questions, we will move on to item number 5, which is our metrics report. And that, will that be Mr. Scheetz?
It will be. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, so you have something to look at here. If you would mind.
Speak up just a little bit, Stephen.
Is it good?
There you go. Just speak up a little bit. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. All right, well, Governor, members of the board, thank you for having me and to present this metrics report to you. It's a pleasure to be here. What you'll see here, I'm going to spend most of my time here on this first page, as all the subsequent pages are just a little bit more detailed information regarding what I'm already going to go over. What you're seeing here on the top portion of the page, and so they're going to be at lower price for business development activities and pipeline. And then on the bottom section of the page, we're going to have just a few statistics regarding some of the other divisions within GOED. So on the first, the top 4 boxes that you see there, we have, number of assisted companies, jobs, and wages. Something to keep in mind, these are assisted companies that we've assisted in some way. They are both non-incentivized and incentivized. Not all of the companies that we work with receive tax abatements. So this is encompassing all of those and all the hard work that our regional development authorities are doing out in the field. So as you can see, being the first quarter of calendar year 2024, we've got 11 wins, which is flat from the same period last year. You'll later find out that that's actually pretty average on a quarterly basis. We have our initial jobs of those 11 companies. They've committed to hiring 744 jobs. That's slightly down from 851 a year in the same quarter last year. We also have, so that initial 2-year commitment is the contracted jobs and then their estimated build out jobs once they're fully staffed. That's going to be that third number, the 890. So after 5 years, they're projecting 890, which is down 72.7% from the 3,266 same time last year. But just to put that in context, the same quarter last year, we had Tesla receive abatements, and their initial jobs were 680 and then jumped to a build out jobs of 3,000. So if we remove Tesla from that, just to give it some context, it would actually be much more in line with what you're seeing here. I'll move on to the assisted company's average wage, which is currently $28.72 for the quarter. That's down 10.6% from 32.14. However, also to put that in context, that was largely a contributed number from one company. One company hired over half of that 744, or has committed to hiring over half of that 744. And a majority of their workforce tends to be more entry level, quote unquote, unskilled labor. And so they're going to be at a lower price point. So if we remove that one company out of the mix, instead of $28, similar to, see, is an average wage of $36.49, which far exceeds our statewide average of $29.28. That's a lot of words but I think that kind of puts things in context for you. And I'll take it one step further. That one company that's kind of pulling the average wage down, even though they are hiring more entry-level positions, they're actually paying over 90% of their health insurance. So kind of a slight offset to the lower wages. If we jump down to that 5th box, the assisted company investments for the first quarter, of 2024, we have $322 million, which is down 91.2%, which is obviously a big number being down. But if you look at that graph, similar to, the build out jobs number, that includes Tesla and, a month before that. So December of 23, also Redwood. So if you take away Tesla and Redwood out of the mix, it's much more level. The average investment is $223 million. So in that context, we're actually exceeding our quarterly average investments. And then if I can jump over to the next three boxes, this is our pipeline. This is given to us by our regional development authorities that are our boots on the ground. And for the first quarter, these first two numbers, leads and prospects, are very volatile. As you can see from the graphs, one quarter they'll be up, one quarter they'll be down. This quarter, in both respects, we happen to be up over 50% for leads and almost double for prospects, compared to a year ago. But the real number that I think is important is this number of wins, which corresponds with the number of assisted companies for the first quarter. The first quarter of every year, these numbers should always be the same. So for the first quarter, we have 11, which is actually up 9 from last quarter, but flat from a year ago. If I can jump down to the next four boxes now, due to the reporting periods and things like that not necessarily being aligned with our board meetings, some of these are relatively unchanged. The Emerging Small Business Program is only reported twice a year, and the most recent data that we have is through December 2023. What I will say about that is, for the first quarter, we have there were a couple of agencies that were a little slow to get us their numbers. We've since received those numbers, which has actually improved that performance for the second half of 2023. And just, to kind of see what you're seeing there, 122 contracts for emerging small businesses to the tune of $8.5 million, which, from a small business perspective is not insignificant. If we jump over to the Rural Community Development Block Grant, now this is an annual award. This is unchanged from the last time I was here, and probably unchanged from even 3 quarters ago. But the folks over administering our community development block grants have made their selections. They had their meeting. They've determined the awards that they deem are approved, and they're not able to announce those quite yet. But what they did say that I'm able to announce is that actually HUD, which is the funding source for this, has announced that once again, this new round of funding is going to be another $2.9 million. And that goes towards these rural community projects that are largely infrastructure based and in these communities that really truly need them, so that the funding that goes towards those are not insignificant in any way. Director Burns mentioned some pretty cool statistics regarding Nevada Apex Accelerator. Now, as I mentioned to you last time, they went from operating under the Defense Logistics Agency to the Department of Defense and at the Pentagon level. And with that change came a different reporting metrics guidelines, and then also a kind of a non-standard reporting period. So since August of 2023, when the operating agreement was in effect, through April 15th of this year, we've had 2 reporting periods, and those 2 reporting periods aren't really enough to glean, what sort of trends we might be seeing or anything like that. But what I would like to point out is, for that operating period, 425 contracts were received by these small businesses to the tune of $185 million, which is an average of about $435,000 per contract. And then lastly, our Nevada Film Office, Director Burns obviously mentioned some, from a small business, they're continuing to do great things. They're up 42.6% with 144 productions. That's up from 101 that last year. And then if we're comparing our assisted clients to last quarter, we're up 48% from 177. So that's that first page. I can pause to see if there's any questions. And then we'll breeze through the subsequent pages.
Governor, a question from Jay Barrett.
Am I supposed to approve?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jace.
thank you, thank you. Mr. Scheetz, wonderful report. Could you give me a hand and remind me what is an assisted company? What happens to qualify a company to be categorized as assisted?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. Maybe you can help me
Sure.
if I botch this, but I believe I'm going to give it a shot if you don't mind.
Okay.
So in order to be considered an assisted company, whether you receive abatements or not, typically they'll work with us on the workforce front. You see a lot of these other agencies down, or these divisions down here. They might work with our WINN program to kind of discuss workforce development opportunities. They might work with our real estate brokers, our network of real estate brokers via our RDAs. I'm blanking some stuff. You want to step in here?
Yeah, Alex Backus, for the record. So typically when we look at the assisted companies, we're talking about companies that we have abated or helped with some of our programs, the RDAs specifically. But when we do talk about assisted companies, we're talking about companies that have received tax abatements. And then we do have non-assisted companies. And those ones we have facilitated in other ways that didn't meet the requirements or didn't seek things like abatements.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure thing.
Any other questions?
Governor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Respect for the record. Thank you for explaining the average wage paid by assisted companies. What I'm a little confused at, it said assisted companies, you explained that one company that drew it down significantly. My question is, when you look at the wage criterion that we have for assisted companies, this one company, did they get abatements? Sounds like their average wage was below the criteria.
Governor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Director Speck, you'll recall at the last meeting, DHL, a franchisee of DHL applied for abatements. They met 2 out of the 3 criteria, and under our statutes, they're allowed to receive partial abatements, 50% of the standard abatement that we'd normally have. So they were, I believe, about $1 an hour below our wage, so they did not receive credit for that portion, but the other portions of the criteria they met, and therefore they received 50% of the abatement. And so that's why they pulled those numbers down.
Excellent. Thank you. Is those 3 criteria, is that statutory?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Want to continue, Steve?
Absolutely. Thank you, Governor. Once again, Steve Scheetz, for the record, search manager with GOED. The first page there after the summary just kind of gives you a little bit better of a breakdown of the first 3 boxes that I showed you before. Of the 11 companies that we assisted over the quarter, they committed to 744 in the first 2 years, and then 890 in the first 5 years, which is their build-out jobs. Of that, 652 of those jobs were incentivized, whereas 92 of them were non-incentivized. The wages paid by these companies, again, the $28.72, largely kind of weighed in by one single company. It's down slightly, 10.6% from a year ago, which was $32.14. And then once again, when we take out that one outlier for the quarter, our average wage would have been $36.49. And our capital investment by assisted companies is $322 million. And that is mostly 291 million of which was attributed to incentivized companies. So you can see that bar on the far right, the kind of rust color bar on top of The gray bar, that represents the assisted abated companies. All right, if we skip to the next page, the top left chart, what that basically says is, you know, what when they entered under contracts, when they got the abatements, what were they committing to as far as jobs are concerned, and what are the actual jobs as a result of that. Now, as you can see, we're only updated through 2022. We're still waiting for Q3 of 2020. I'm sorry, Q4 of 2023. And then once that comes through, once that's finalized, I'll update these numbers. But I'm confident it's going to tell the same story, that the actual jobs far exceed the contracted jobs. You jump down to the left bottom corner, and that's indicative of our industry mix. As you can see, it's very largely unchanged from, you know, what we've seen quarter after quarter after quarter. This is what our RDAs focus on when they're targeting companies to move here. And you can see it's largely manufacturing, followed by logistics and operations, followed by information technology, which happens to be 3 of our 5 main strategic sectors that we're targeting. A little bit more detail in the leads, prospects, and wins. As you can see on that far right graph, the wins are very well in line over the last 2 years. It's very different, or very slightly from, you know, 10 to 11, 12, 9, 1. The average is about 10.5. So, and then lastly, this abated companies by size class. This basically depicts that over half of the companies that we've abated so far are small, in fact, small businesses that have 100 or less employees. Next page. There's on page 3 of the packet here, a lot of information here. I don't need to go over all of it, but the one thing that I'd like to draw your attention to is that bottom right graph. You know, I stated this last time, and we've actually seen improvement. Last time I was here, we included 2012, which actually was significantly lower in terms of our average return on investment on abated dollars. So when I limited it to 10 full years plus this current quarter, our return on investment is over 258%, which is basically for every dollar abated, we receive new tax dollars in the amount of $2.58. On page 4, you know, a little bit more detail regarding the Apex Accelerator program. The dark blue bar that you see there represents the first reporting period, and the light blue bar above it represents the second reporting period. And as I mentioned before, there's not enough data yet to determine the trends. However, you know, to reiterate, 425 contracts over those 2 reporting periods, averaging $435,000 a piece. You know, in terms of significance, we're looking at these abbreviations stand for small, disadvantaged businesses, historically underutilized business zones, veteran-owned small businesses, and women-owned small businesses, which are largely underrepresented when it comes to government contracting. So in terms of what this actual division is putting out, is pretty significant, considering that, you know, those small businesses are earning on average almost, you know, $500,000 per contract. Our emerging small business program, I'm not going to go over that anymore. Like I said, and numbers are slightly revised, but tell the same story. Our Nevada Film Office, I think we've given you a pretty good idea of the good work that they're doing there. And our community block grant, I forgot to mention, the new awards for this grant are actually going to be active July 1st. So that's when the announcements will be made as to what the cool infrastructure projects they have on the docket. On page 6, I'll just kind of go over the Nevada jobs and unemployment. The most recent, when I created this metrics report, the most recent data that we had at hand was through March of 2024. And at that time, per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we had 1.576 million jobs. And that's a gain of 3.4% over a prior year. And that's in contrast to our national growth of 1.9%. So what we're seeing is obviously significant, more significant than the national is our statewide growth. That puts us at 131,800 jobs, higher than our pre-pandemic peak. I apologize. And if we kind of go down there just a little bit more, we're still at about 5.1% is where the March number came in. Now, as of March, we are no longer the highest unemployment rate in the nation. Since then, we have passed up the both California and the District of Columbia. But I also want to kind of point out that 5.1% is not bad. In fact, I went back to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and what I saw was, in economist terms, we're looking at full employment between 4 and 5%. 5% is kind of that sweet spot, which we're a rounding error off of that, basically. Whereas 25 states have, less than 3.5% unemployment. And while that sounds great, that actually creates a much tighter labor market, causing a whole host of even bigger problem, maybe not necessarily bigger problems, but different problems for those markets. And so even though we may be kind of down on the list in terms of our higher unemployment compared to the rest, when we're talking about the health of our economy, I would venture to say that we're in probably a better position than over half the country who has a very tight labor market. And then, the target sectors on these next 2 pages tell very much the same story that I was here telling you last time. We're seeing significant growth in our advanced manufacturing, transportation, logistics, IT, national resources, and our hospitality, tourism, sports, and creative industries. That hospitality, tourism, I'm not going to say the whole thing, but the hospitality industry, for a while there lagged all the other industries in terms of their recovery rate. What we're seeing is that finally those jobs are much more in line with our pre-pandemic peaks. So, our Clark County folks are definitely helping us out creating or growing our jobs down there. And with that is the end of my report. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, go ahead. Cisco. Ready to go.
They receive 50% of the abatement.
Let's go, by the way, on page 4, return on investment of abatements. Do the layoffs at Tesla impact any of these figures for the return on investment?
Yeah, definitely Tesla and Redwood. As you can see, those numbers in 22 and 23, because that's calendar year, they're slightly elevated from what you see in years prior to that. So yes, that does include both Tesla and Redwood.
To clarify, Governor. Tom Burns for the record. I don't believe that the statistics yet, as they relate to the layoffs of Tesla, I think that's where you're referring to, Secretary, have impacted the numbers that we've received yet. Okay, so we would not have those. And as it relates to the abatements that Tesla or anybody else would receive, as you know, they're audited at the 2nd, 5th, and in this case, their 10th year, as they relate to the commitments they made to the state of Nevada and how well they kept those commitments. And if they did not meet those commitments, their reward is impacted appropriately. Perfect. Thank you.
Question, Governor?
Go ahead, Yolanda.
This is Yolanda. So I'm looking at page 60 unemployment numbers. You stated that the Nevada is no longer the highest unemployment rate. There are other states that have increased. Are you seeing any trends where perhaps Nevada can be lagging in an increase in its unemployment rate?
Let me answer it this way. This is Steve Scheetz, by the way, for the record. Yes, I think that what you're onto is we could see necessarily a potential lag in our progression, but when we look at it from the two factors into this calculation, we're talking about the folks that are unemployed and compared to the workforce. And so really the reason that we've had this kind of stubbornly high unemployment rate is because they're kind of moving in lockstep, right? So we're going to see an incremental decrease in relation to that, whereas somebody else's market might not necessarily be increasing at the same rate, but their labor force might be, et cetera, like, and the vice versa. So I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I'm just, I know you can't predict this, but generally in Nevada, we do lag. And if we're seeing an increase in unemployment across other states, is that a trend that can come to Nevada? That's really what I'm trying to understand or figure out if you have looked that far out.
No, that's a
So at
great
some
question.
point, the trends in other states, we lag, eventually they catch up in our unemployment could increase as a result of what we're seeing in other states.
Governor, if I may, Tom Burns for the record, in the past, as you know, when Deputy Director Potts had been reporting on this stuff, one of the things that he emphasized is that we have been a state of job seekers and versus just layoffs that have happened. I know that the layoffs that happened at Tesla were newsworthy. And clearly, if you're one of those 763 people, it was not a pleasant day. And so I don't make light of that. But historically, what we found over the last year is because of the influx of people coming to the state of Nevada and increasing the number of job seekers we've had, that is what has caused our unemployment to be higher than maybe other states. Because at the same time, we've been creating more jobs per capita than any of the other states. So we're employing people as they come along, but a lot of our friends to the west are finding the economic climate here a little more palatable. And so they're coming here candidly without jobs, looking to seek them, and they count in those unemployment statistics.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Pat. Thank you. Can we go back to page 3 on the abatements? It's a two-part question. One is, do we have a budgeted amount that we can give out in abatements?
Tom Burns for the record, we do not, sir.
Okay. It's the only question I was gonna ask is we could add a line item to ensure that coaching it, we know that we get near that risk, so there is no ceiling.
Sure. Again, Tom Burns for the record, as you know, abatements are really not money that we're spending as a state. They are just a discount on a future obligation. And so we don't impact the state general fund from the standpoint of writing checks out. And so that doesn't. But
it's also an unfunded liability.
yeah, adequately put, yep. Accurately put.
So a quick question to build off Mr. Speck's earlier question. So as a board, I guess this is a question to the board. So we have 3 categories. You got jobs, wages, and CapEx. And wages is 29, statutory 29, 28. And so we're seeing this graph here at the year to date is 2872. And in the current housing crisis that we're experiencing within the state, and the constant answer is an increase in wages in order to make it affordable, correct? Are we putting ourselves in a position to we're assisting companies that we shouldn't be assisting? By the fact that we only require 2 to 3 categories?
Tom Burns for the record, that's certainly a viable conversation, Governor. I do understand where that comes from. Certainly, in the case of DHL, while it's not significantly under, but we still do put ourselves in a position where that difference could be vastly different than that. And that certainly is at the pleasure of this board and the legislature.
Is the 2872 a living amount, or is it changed annually? Is it capped there?
The 20,
we go back to the legislature.
yeah, so the number, the 2928, which is the
the 29.
yes, sir. 2928 is the state average wage, and that is statutorily monitored, and it fluctuates as obviously as the state average wage fluctuates.
Well, I guess that's the proverbial question. Do we have a discussion as a board to reevaluate that criteria? Sasha,
Sasha Stevens for the record, do we know historically when that was put in statute, the 2 out of 3?
Chris, do you know?
Melanie Sheldon for the record. It's not specifically a 2 out of 3. The wage is somewhat non-negotiable. We have something called a standard abatement packet, which if you pay the statewide average wage as set by DETA on the 1st of July every year, you can get standard abatements. If you pay between 85 and 99% of the statewide average wage, you can get a reduced abatement packet. If you pay under 85 of the statewide average wage, you cannot get abatements. And the only time that changes,
There's a bottom.
absolutely no abatements under 85% of the statewide average wage, unless the unemployment in the state goes over 7%.
Less what?
Unless the unemployment rate in the state goes, per county goes over 7%.
Per county?
Yes,
So if a designated company was in a certain county, that's the valuation point?
that's
So it's
right.
not
So
statewide.
no, if Clark County went above 7% unemployment, then any company located in Clark County, as per statute, could qualify with a lower wage threshold. And the 2 out of 3 came into play at a 2015 board resolution, where the board actually said, okay, the wage must be met, and then a company will have the option of meeting the capital equipment criteria. And if they meet that and the wage, the jobs can be reduced down to 10% minimum for an urban area and 6 minimal jobs for a rural area. And that's how we hit the 2 out of 3.
So it was done by resolution.
It was done by, December 2015 board resolution.
Dr. Sanchez?
Well, excuse me. I think it's a good question, Governor, and what I was going to state is that
Thank you, Melanie.
when you think about, the 2012 Reset for Economic Development was based on the 11 session, which was based on research that was done in 2010 coming out of the global financial crisis. And we've had the same abatement policy in place since then, and the economy has changed drastically, especially after the pandemic. And one of the things with our abatements is that, the intent behind them at that time was you go back to that state, the state of the state at that time. We just needed jobs, and it didn't really matter what jobs they were because things were so dire and the troubles were so acute for the state. What we don't have the ability to do in statute is be very focused on the types of companies that are coming in and looking at how they fit into the plan and strategy that we have in growing the economy, and then correlating that with the jobs that they have and the total value of those jobs and impact on the economy. So because the policy's been so broad, it's very hard to be very targeted in exactly what we're looking for through the abatement policy.
Go ahead.
Right, and I concur with Dr. Sanchez's observations. I think that in meeting with your staff and meetings we have in the coming weeks, you'll see some suggestions from our office that address a little more targeted procedure and
6 million jobs.
thought process.
So there's been discussion, something like that.
Governor Cisco for the record. Is there a conversation in your discussions about the disparity between the highest paid and the lowest paid? Because it seems like the highest paid carries that lower dollar to that average wage. Is there a way or some algorithm that allows to ensure that we are attracting those higher paid jobs for the average Nevadan?
Tom Burns for the record. Mr. Secretary, yes, one, it's a weighted average. So if you have, illustratively, if you have 50 people that make $10 an hour and one person that makes $100 an hour, the average wage is not $55 an hour. In other words, the simple average between 10 and 100. It is a weighted average that would actually pull that weight down to, so you would have the total wage divided by 11, and that would draw that wage down. So that does take into account that disparity.
Because I think there was one abatement package we did last meeting.
I think we should, yeah, it might have been a couple, but yes, I remember the one you're talking about. That was part of that.
And then back on the per hour wage on the steps page, it shows the unincentivized wage was higher than the incentivized wage. Is that, what happens when that occurs? So why even spend our money?
You go.
So would you like me to answer that? This is Steve.
Please, Steve.
Okay, yeah, so this kind of goes back to what I was telling you, because the one company that's contributing to that kind of pulling the weighted average down, that did receive partial abatements at the last board meeting. That's why that's found in the average wage on the incentivized companies versus the non-incentivized companies.
Yeah, but that's 2 cycles in a row now that that's occurred. Right?
But you can see the same cycle occurred back in 21, 22, though, over several quarters. Right here.
If you're.
And one of the things that I asked this question to Bob last time, this is Steve Scheetz, by the way, for the record.
Same.
And one of the components to this is going to be, kind of the industry mix of those abated companies. And they're going to carry, different weights and different, staffing patterns that, may have, a higher level of, skilled jobs compared to like those entry level unskilled jobs. I don't know if statutorily we have any way of dictating, whether or not those companies with maybe larger entry level positions can necessarily be abated or not.
So. Oh, good. So in capital, who's capital? $39 an hour.
All right.
In Crossroads is what, 44? Oh, there we go. So don't get nervous over here.
I'm actually noting 3 for 3 on
Good.
Yolanda?
This is Yolanda. So have we taken a look at what the average wage, rather than using the entire Nevada average wage, have we taken a look at what that looks like by county? Because obviously the affordability in certain counties are going to be higher and more than others. So maybe if we take a
I
look at
think
that.
Melanie alluded to that, didn't it? As far as the county consideration.
Melanie Sheldon for the record, we do use the statewide average wage if the unemployment rate is below 7%. However, as I said, if it goes above, it's county by county. Right, yeah, and it's by the unemployment rate. We do get a breakdown of the wages in each county. When DETA sends us the statewide average wage every year, they do give us the average wage for every county as well, just so we're aware of that when we're making adjustments, should there be any changes with the unemployment rate or anything like that.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that, and then I don't know if there might be adjustments that we would need to take a look at legislatively. Because obviously, I mean, if the average wage, let's just say for Clark County, is much lower than this number, and we're bringing in a lot of companies that are going to be at that below, we're not never, but it's going to be difficult to move the needle.
Yep.
So.
Steve, you have the capability to measure the question.
Yes, I do.
You could provide the board some kind of documentation.
Yeah, I don't
Not right now,
have
but
it.
obviously before the next
I'm
meeting.
able to, yeah.
Sorry, Melanie Sheldon for the record.
You can stay now.
On your unemployment rate page, you have one confidential one and one in your packet, but on Schedule 5B, that actually shows what the company is planning to pay, and then there is a column to show whether it's commensurate to the statewide average wage. And we do that comparison too, and if there's any huge disparities, we want to raise that with the company.
I agree with, sorry, this is Sasha Berg. I agree with Yolanda, though. It'd be great to know, especially where these jobs are going in each county and what that wage is, so that we're not voting blind on whether or not that's far below or far above what the average wage is there.
It's information we should provide you. We'll get that to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if we need to pursue a future resolution, I think we need to know that.
Governor, if I just may add to both of their points, I think it'd be good to have that, because you could have some companies for the abatement that could move over to a county that is more in economic need. right? If we say, here's the cutoff for this county, here's the cutoff for that county, right? So that could be benefits to our state, making that available.
Yeah, and the housing situation is completely different in each county.
Exactly. If, Governor, if I may, I just have one question, and I promise that's it. I apologize.
Oh, you're a board member, you can ask for days.
No, we don't want to be here all. This is similar but different. I wasn't sure when to ask, but we're talking about criteria now. And when I was reading the book the other night, I was really excited about the WINN fund. All the companies were looking at the WINN fund. And I'm looking forward to hearing the presentations later today. But what kind of freaked me out is we had 10 million that's available and we're down to 2.6 million. My question is, do we have any criteria for those jobs that we're looking to train? Because what I'm worried about is you may be saying, let's approve this X wages, which is great for those jobs. But we may have to bypass something with a higher wage next time that we could have done that training. So that was my question is, and maybe I should have known this, but is there any criteria for the WINs as far as wages and things of that nature, just so we're using the funds prudently? Yeah.
Elaine Silverstone, Director of Workforce Development for the record. And so the statutory requirements, as I understand them for the WINN Fund, would welcome applications that are in sectors of the state plan. And so those are really the first requirement. I'm not really sure that much more, like that there's a weightedness to which sector or which geographical region otherwise. Does that answer some of what you're getting at your question?
It does. I'll give a fictitious example.
Sure.
We may look at a great program that says it's gonna pay $18 an hour, right? And we're down to 2.6 million. We could be in our next meeting saying, well, we wish we could have done this program because it needs $3 million. The wage would have been $35. So I'm just asking, there's a way that if there's no criteria, is a way that we can somehow monitor it, or is a way to evaluate that so we're prudently spending the state's money?
Sure, and that resonates for me as well. I can tell you that there's a healthy pipeline of a few projects coming through what would be the remainder of the biennium. I'd love to even speak with you about some of them offline, outside of the meeting, just to give you an idea of what's coming in the pipeline. But otherwise, there's not, and maybe we can talk about how to apply one, some sort of a weightedness to a sector or a geographic region so that it's shared in some reasonable proportion. I think that's what you're getting at in your question, so that we're managing it throughout the cycle well.
Right, and in fairness, I think good place for the analytics. Tom, I hate to throw it on you.
That's right.
Like your area would be great to take a look at this, maybe come back to.
Yep.
So instead of us as board members making a recommendation.
That's great.
Yep. Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Right, do we have any other questions? Reference this agenda item. All right, hearing none, we will, I believe it's informational only, right? Correct?
That's correct.
We will close agenda item number 5, move to agenda item number 6, the unemployment rate update. Mr. Scheetz.
Thanks again, Steve Scheetz, for the record. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. The story is pretty much unchanged from the last board meeting. As you know, as Melanie kind of alluded to earlier, if any county level unemployment rate exceeds 7% per our statutes, they can qualify for, reduced abatements or reduced criteria for abatements in order to spur, incentivize job growth. Unfortunately, the unemployment data is not seasonally adjusted at the county level, which is why we use a 12-month trailing average. And as you can see in the board packet there, all of the rates across all of our counties are under that 7% threshold. So with that, I think that that's probably all that this really can tell us at this point.
Any questions? So there was for the record, Governor Lombardo, Chris You might be able to answer it if Steve can't. Yolanda asked, since we're no longer last, where are we?
Governor, you asking me?
Either Chris or Steve, who can answer the question.
What do you mean? Well, we're, Governor, for the record,
I
Chris
know what
Sewell.
the answer is.
Yeah, you have two Chris's too. For the record, Chris Sewell, from Dieter, we are number 3 in the nation, and at 5.1%. And I believe California is at 5.3%. And again,
So that's 2. So who's the other one?
District of Columbia, and they're at 5 point, hold on, sir. California's 5.3, District of Columbia is 5.2, and Nevada's 5.1. Washington State is below us at 4.8, to give you the next state behind us. But again,
What statutory between?
historically, an unemployment rate of around 5%, was a great rate. Anything below that was, you can have your cake and eat it too. Historically, around a 5% rate was a good unemployment rate. Every month in the past, I believe 12 months, Nevada has more people going into the workforce than any other state in the nation. And so that is also helping create the jobs. We have more people coming into the workforce, which is also creating more people within the workforce. And just from April, I believe we are now at, hold on one second. We now have seasonally adjusted at 5.1%, with Nevada labor force currently stands at 1.615. And that's an increase of 1,153 people from March, and an increase of 19,000 from 2023. So our unemployment rate may be higher in the nation, or on the high side of the nation, but we still have more people moving into the workforce and not away from the workforce. So that means people have the opportunity to move around in jobs. If you have a very low unemployment rate in the nation here, in South Dakota and places like that, employees and employers don't have the opportunity to have that ability to search. Employees can't find a better job because they're almost stuck in that job because of the unemployment rate. And employers don't have the ability to go out and find the best employee. Now, I know she asked the question of what's the trend. If I had a magic window into the future and I know that trend, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. But I can tell you that based on what Dave Schmidt says, my chief economist, he's going that if there is a recession, it's probably not going to be as bad for Nevada as it is for some other states, because we have diversified. And a lot of times in a recession, and what Dave has pointed out to me, is the financial sector gets hit very hard. Well, we don't have a very large financial sector. We do have a financial sector, but it's not something like New York or Chicago or something along those lines. So we might have that soft landing here in Nevada. But again, with the diversification that we've done in both northern and southern Nevada, and the tourism events that we keep bringing in and continue to bring in, we are actually in a better situation than most states. Hopefully that answers some questions.
We have a question. Ms. King.
Not a question related to what you just spoke about. Comment for me is that that's just been my experience when we have recessions, that we lag in terms of where we fall in the recession and the recovery in the recession. But Governor, I would like to ask that on this particular report, can we add a column that includes the prior, the prior period unemployment rates so that we can kind of see where. So the last period for this would have been January when we last met. So whatever the period that we reported at the last GOED meeting, if we can add a column, just to see where the numbers might be starting to increase.
So, Governor Bar for the record, Chris Sewell, are you the one that supplies this report or is it Steve?
It's a combination of Steve, Bob Potts, and Dave Schmidt.
Okay, so, reference Ms. King's question. Because I don't know if the quarterly report. So your unemployment numbers come via the month or the quarter?
We have our unemployment numbers come every month.
So you would like the previous month or the quarter?
Just what we previously reported at the prior. The
Oh,
last
so
GOED
just from the GOED meeting?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So the last GOED meeting we had, it reported January of 2024. So if we compare what the last GOED meeting report was to this report, it will kind of give us an idea of when we're starting to see an uptick in the unemployment.
does that require an action or can it just?
No, we can just adjust the, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Chris Sanchez for the record, just to build on what the director said, one point of clarification I'd like to make is that when we look at diversification across the state,
For the record,
Same.
so we can't speak about the state and diversification as a monolith, because if you look at the ratings and you compare it geographically across the western states, it's vastly different based on the geography. So for instance, Clark County is not as diversified as Washoe. And so when we're thinking about policy and thinking about if we're diversified or not, we should look at it in terms of the rurals, Washoe, Clark, and our and the different regions throughout the state.
So, Governor Barr for the record, so Chris, are you making reference to the diversity associated to this graph?
It would be related to that. So that's the industry mix for the state, but
Right.
those industries have grown in different.
But do you want them to per county or?
Well, when we're thinking, yeah, I mean, I think there's different indexes that the Hoffman index is one that the GOED has referenced and utilized before. And that's a measure of diversification across the states. And what that shows is that Clark County, for instance, is not as diverse as like Salt Lake City or any of those metro areas that we're competing with. And then if you get into the growth trajectory of like what's happened in Washoe, but specifically because of Tyler Industrial Center, that's a very different economy than what's happened in the growth down here in southern Nevada. So we're still not immune from those shocks to the system that we've had. If we were to have another one here soon, we would still go through the same sort of cycle that we just came out of. The question is how deep is that cycle going to be for us? And as we talk about that, I want to make sure that from where I sit and what I've seen in the data, that we understand that we're not immune yet. And we're working towards diversification. We still have work to do.
So it seems like GOED would manage that on a regular basis. What he's discussing. Right?
The-
Internally. So
As far as the data or
the data, so you can have a
Yes.
response.
yes,
Office.
Right.
Right. So you're for LVGEA and EDON and your RDAs, correct? Is that what you're saying, Chris?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's part, well, a response in what way? Sorry, Governor. Trying to think, but what you're
So
saying.
you're saying we should have more information, the difference between, diversified or not, right? And are we relying on that information to make a better decision as a board or?
Yeah, right. So so
Or
there's
is marching orders for going?
So the Hackman Index, for instance, they update those annually. So you can see kind of if we're trending in the right direction. And then that would play into the strategy that's developed around what industries to focus in and whether or not we're making progress in the industries that we are trying to.
Would you like, is it easy to provide that report for informational purposes to the board or for directions of the
Yeah.
economic development agencies?
It is, yes. It's
Both.
accessible,
Both?
both. Yeah,
Okay.
it's available online and.
Can we do that?
Mhm.
All right. Maybe just do, provide that report in one of the, once annually in the.
Sure.
It's part of the board schedule. Okay, any further questions on the unemployment? Good. Right, you know what, just to back up, is, do I have a DAG? You need a DAG? Do you have a DAG?
Doug's online. David Newton,
Oh, there he is.
upper right hand corner.
I see him.
Yep.
So maybe Yolanda, you could better answer this with your experience. Under item number 5, the metrics report, and we discussed the possible resolution. Is that something that we need to identify as an action item?
For the report?
No, for,
I'm sorry.
for
Whether
direction.
Go ahead.
It's generally been direction to staff to come back to review, look at resolution for possible change.
So it's not an action item for the board to vote on?
I believe not at the sitting, Tom Burns for the record, I believe not at the sitting, sir. Certainly, we will bring back information to the board and.
And then we could vote whether we need a resolution.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Dave, does that sound accurate? Is that,
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I would have said.
okay. All right, we'll close item number 6. Move to agenda item number 7 for possible action, abatement applications for board approval. And we'll kick it off with item 7A, Capital USA. So if Capital could come to the table, we'd appreciate that. Sheldon, will you be presenting?
I'm sorry, sir?
Are you presenting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, I'm gonna stand because I've been sitting since 4 o'clock this morning, so. For the record, I'm Sheldon Mudd, the Director of the Northeastern Nevada Regional Development Authority. Governor, board members, on behalf of the NNRDA Board, we'd like to introduce Capital, a mining services company that's based in London and is supporting mining operations on almost every continent in the world, but they've decided to enter the US market right here in Nevada, specifically in Elko. The economic impact is expected to surpass millions of dollars annually. And as you can see by your packets, they will be generating 160 plus jobs at $39 an hour. Capital essentially will add another link to the Nevada mining supply chain, bringing us ever closer to realizing a fully integrated mineral life cycle from extraction to recycling. I am proud to introduce Capital's Chief Financial Officer this afternoon, and I think he gets the award for traveling the furthest. He came to Las Vegas from Perth, Western Australia, to be with us this afternoon. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Brown.
Thank you.
Guys sound like an entertainer, James. Are you gonna sing and dance?
I'll do my best, but I can't.
Hardest working man.
Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Board. And thank you for the opportunity to attend the board meeting here in Las Vegas. I'm here today on behalf of Capital Group. I'm actually Group Head of Tax rather than CFO. So our CFO sits in London and is actually coming over, I think, later this year for one of the mining conferences here in Las Vegas as well. We are, as Sheldon has said, we're a global provider of services to the extractive industries, and we have an extensive client list, primarily consisting of blue chip resources companies. We have a long history of operating throughout the African continent, but we see a great future for our operations here in the US, commencing with a long-term contract with Nevada Gold Mines in Elko. Furthermore, our labs business, MSA Labs, is at the forefront of the new Chrysos photon assay technology and has recently announced a global partnership with Barrick for the rollout of up to 13 additional photon assay units across Barrick's mine sites globally. Of this 13, we're looking to install potentially 3 units in Elko. Coming to the US for the first time, and Nevada in particular, we've found through the job fairs we've attended, as well as our own recruitment events, that the quality of people in the area is excellent. The Chrysos photon assay machines are, however, a new and innovative technology that require a significant investment in training, as they represent a fundamental departure from the traditional destructive and energy-intensive fire assay process that has long been the global norm. In terms of our Nevada experience so far, it's been great working with the development teams from my first meeting with Sheldon in Elko late last year, through to working with the GOED team led by Melanie here in Las Vegas and culminating with today's session as well. The approach throughout has been respectful, cooperative, and to put it quite simply, helpful, which is very much appreciated by myself and the whole Capital team. We see the potential for a long and profitable future for the Capital Group here in Nevada, and the availability of the incentives program here in the Silver State is a key factor for us. Thank you.
We have any questions? Any board members? Go ahead, Sasha.
And this isn't related specifically to the abatement, but I'm curious if you were looking at Canada as well. Are you looking to expand, thinking that the North America loop is something that you're interested in supporting and getting across the finish line faster? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we have existing operations in Canada, but we're looking at sort of expanding those at the moment as well. I think at the time, so things probably moved on a little bit because we move quite quickly sometimes. We're also looking sort of in the latter stages at the moment of a new contract in Arizona as well, which has got the potential to be serviced out of the Elko labs.
Don Havens, just to follow up on that, then how committed are you to the Elko project as compared to, say, the Arizona project?
Well, at the moment, we have an existing contract in Elko, so we will have a presence in Elko. I think the decision for us, we're 95% of the way there. This is really the last piece for us. It's where do we put our main site? Where do we locate effectively our US headquarters? We operate in quite a lot of countries around the world, a sort of a spoke lab, hub and spoke lab model, where you have one main lab that can service a pretty significant area. So, for example, at the moment, we have labs in Canada where samples are shipped from Africa, Canada, to be tested. So we use that sort of logistics capability we have as a business as well to use those as hubs. So, but the answer to your question is yes, we've had a.
And so this new technology you have, is that proprietary to Capital Mining?
We are one of the main proponents of it. So it's actually, the technology is owned by an Australian company, which was a spin out from the CSIRO, the Australian government science arm. So they listed recently on the Australian Stock Exchange, a company called Chrysos. So they own the technology, but we have, I'm going to say exclusivity / sort of first right of refusal in the territories in which we operate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I missed that. Did you say you were considering Arizona?
We have a contract that looks like it's coming up in Arizona, but we've also got the capacity to use Elko to service that contract from the lab side.
There's a lot more mines in Elko than Arizona.
Exactly. It's true. Exactly.
All right, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Governor, before you go to the motion, this is Chris Sewell. I'm going to promote my agency here for a second, and I would encourage Capital USA to get in contact with my workforce individuals up in Elko, our employee NV office. We service most of the mines up there on helping them find employees and things of that nature. We can do a lot of things, including commercial driver's licenses and fund that and everything else. So please reach out to the employee NV office in Elko. They can help you fill jobs with Nevadans.
Thank you.
Sheldon, you can facilitate that, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Governor, it's very special motion to approve.
Approve what?
Yeah, right. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's
Well, whatever they want.
I'll approve the abatements for Capital USA. You don't want me to go through each?
No, it doesn't. There you go. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Ms. Stevenson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against, nay? Hearing none, the motion passes. Congratulations, sir.
Welcome to that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
You're welcome to stick around, be bored to death, or you can take Mr. Mudd out for some lunch.
I might wait for the next session just to hear.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, we will close item 7A and move to 7B. Abatement application for board approval on Ingenia. How do you say it?
Ingenia.
Ingenia, Chartam, doing business as Crossroads Paper.
Good afternoon, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, and board members. I'm Michelle Hammond Allen, co-director of the Nevada 9580 Regional Development Authority. With me today, I also have the chair of our Humboldt Development Authority board and the team from Crossroads that includes John and Ron Sassine and Matt Day. I want to thank the board for considering the incentive application for Ingenia Chartam, otherwise known as Crossroads Paper. The company is applying for the sales and use, personal property, modified business tax abatement, as well as the real property tax abatement for recycling. Crossroads Paper will build a manufacturing facility in Humboldt County that will recycle waste paper, namely cardboard and packaging material, and produce new packaging material that will be shipped across the Western United States and potentially into Mexico and Canada. This project aligns with our GOED goal for an innovative Nevada. By diversifying our economy, mining is a key industry in Humboldt County. This is far from mining. Engaging in workforce development, talks are already underway with both Great Basin College and next UNR in developing engineering programs centered around paper engineering. Utilizing the untapped resource of waste, we are doing not a whole lot of innovation with waste in Humboldt County, and this is clearly innovative. And presenting an innovative use of water, water-wise, as Director Burns mentioned earlier. Crossroads will employ over 100 full-time employees with an average wage of $44 an hour. Our current average wage in Humboldt County is $33 an hour. The total capital investment will exceed $450 million. During construction, over a 2-year period, they'll bring on up to 600 construction workers. The estimated 10-year economic impact will be over $1 billion for the state of Nevada. Projects and investments like this matter in our communities, and this project presents a huge opportunity for the Nevada 9580 rural region stretching across both Humboldt and Pershing counties. It is my pleasure today to again introduce you to Ron Sassine from Crossroads Paper and John to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. So let me begin with a very simple proposition. This is one of the most basic elements of interstate and global commerce, nothing other than the corrugated box. And I find it's useful for us sometimes as we have these discussions to share some examples of what it is composed of and how it gets manufactured. I'll be very brief. But what you can understand from what our process will be is we'll simply collect the material that is it currently exists in the state of Nevada and in neighboring states. Millions of these boxes circulate in our daily lives. Right now, they only have 2 possible destinations. They get shipped out of state to processing facilities in remote locations of the country, or they get shipped overseas. We have the opportunity in Humboldt County to bring a facility and install world-class equipment that will do that here in the state of Nevada. And then rather than simply being a transit point through which these items flow today, we can add value. We can send that material then as a finished good to converters up and down the West Coast through the Rocky Mountain region all across the Great Basin. It's an opportunity for us to harness a market that is currently in deficit. Markets along the West Coast are bringing this raw material from the states of South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. They're trucking it all the way across the US to get it to where they need it or to bring it in from overseas. We can make that material here. We can introduce new high-paying jobs. We can capitalize on the logistics connections that exist that bring Interstate 80, the Union Pacific Railway, and move that material both into the state for processing and out of the state for customers who require it. Michelle mentioned how water-wise this facility is. One of the wonderful things about what we're able to do now versus what older facilities have done is we can recirculate, clean, and reuse the water within the facility. So we may have a water process that is much more attuned to the needs of an arid environment. You add to that the fact that we're going to be deactivating agricultural land with a very high water usage. We'll take that water, use it, reintroduce it through rapid infiltration basins, and actually reduce the amount of water being used in that location by installing a manufacturing facility rather than a simple agricultural operation. Pat in the back likes to point out often that in what corresponds to one alfalfa pivot today, where you might have a handful of employees operating that pivot, we'll put 108 people into jobs earning $44 an hour in that same location with a water consumption of about 1/3 of what that current agricultural pivot does. So that's our plan. Bring a diversified, one-of-a-kind, first-of-its-kind operation to the state of Nevada. Use waste paper to create value-added new materials that are going to be in high demand as people continue to need products shipped to homes, businesses, and throughout the supply chain. And we come from a long history of this. John's been in the recycling business for 35 years. I've been in the papermaking and packaging business for about the same time span. We've done this before, and we're ready to do it here. We're ready to do it here in the state of Nevada. Mel, thank you for all of your work. I just want you to know that the staff here at GOED has been marvelous. Absolutely just a joy to work with, and we're excited to call this Army home.
Any questions?
Weldon Higgins, I see here that you are considering establishing a recycling operation, and then later it says that you have considered California and Utah. One seemed to be perhaps a little conflict with the other. How committed are you to Winnemucca?
We have money down on land in Winnemucca, in Humboldt County. We have a contract that's subject to some due diligence, but we are committed to the state of Nevada and specifically to Humboldt County for this operation. It is the only place, and we have looked high and low. It is the only place that brings all of those elements together: logistics, utilities, a trainable, skilled workforce that can be adapted into the type of processing we'll do. We're absolutely committed to Humboldt County.
Thank you.
Ms. Stevenson?
Sasha, Stevens, director. I'm curious, you talk about, the cost of shipping things from South Carolina, and I think Nevada is acutely aware of the cost of shipping, especially when it comes to groceries and food. Is there a cost savings passed along to the consumer, meaning the small business that might use this product? Or I'm just curious if there's.
Yeah, no, we anticipate that will. I mean, if you take, for example, let's look at a lettuce grower in the Central Valley of California. Right now, they need to bring paper in, and they get that paper converted into boxes. And then that cost of that transportation is transferred along to the lettuce buyer, who puts it in their grocery store, and then that flows into a household budget. And so that cost savings, we're going to be able to pass along because we've got a reduced freight cost. That'll get passed along to a box maker, who passes it to a lettuce grower, who passes it to a retailer. All of those elements become opportunities for us to reduce cost for folks who are otherwise paying those higher freight rates as they bring stuff across the country.
Any other questions? Mr. Speck?
Governor, I just had two comments, respectful record. One is, it's refreshing to have a company come to us, say we're going to add jobs to your state and we're going to use less water that could be used in that area. So thank you very much. The second is give them recognition. This is the first company that ever did show and tell.
That's right.
Recognize them for that.
No, we did skills had us on our phones. Remember that? Playing games.
Governor,
Go ahead.
thank you. For the record, this is Joan Ebert. Thank you for the presentation. In your documentation on page 3, it talks about job growth and specifically staffing needs will be met from within Nevada and the local region, as well as drawing on experienced out-of-state employees with specialized skills. So I was wondering in your analysis, what specialized skills do not currently exist in the area that you're looking for?
Thank you. It's a marvelous question. There are technical skills associated with operating this large equipment that manufactures containerboard. We will be bringing in, for example, we're purchasing the equipment from a world-class manufacturer in Finland that operates exclusively in the field. And so with that, we will want to bring in a couple of key operators with experience operating that very complicated equipment, who then function as trainers to the rest of the operation. And so our folks who we hire locally are trained by a combination of experience of paper machinery operators from other locations, as well as our Finnish maintenance and installation team, who will come over to spread that knowledge. It's also a situation where we will take folks and likely relocate them to some other areas as they learn those jobs from other producers. And so there are elements of this that require local staff, and then again, just this handful of people who will come in some of the senior technical roles to teach and educate those that we're hiring locally.
Governor, this is Chris. I'm going to do my spiel here. We also have an employee NV office in Winnemucca. And one thing that I didn't mention earlier is it doesn't cost you any money. We'll help you whatever you need. So I encourage you to reach out to our employee NV office. I know I was talking to my deputy administrator over workforce, and he's looking forward to talking with your company.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Yep.
So a couple questions. How long does it take to build the facility?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
I spoke with our engineering team yesterday, and specifically with our machinery supplier. They say their delivery time right now is between 16 to 18 months. So we'll put a machine on order. They'll develop it all in Finland, send it here in pieces. It gets assembled after we've done the civil construction, and in essentially 2.5 years, we want to be making our first rolls of paper.
So, is there a requirement for a rail spur or a trucking?
It will be both. We're actually, our site is adjacent to the UP, and we have, courtesy of our engineers we were reviewing yesterday, a spur that will come off the UP just at around mile 168 of Interstate 80. That rail will go through the facility so that we can load and unload from the same spur, and then we can take it either east or west, depending on what our needs are at that time.
Who incurs that cost? UP or?
We do.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, we'll build that spur. But what you can understand from
No trucking? You said both trucking?
both, yeah, so we will
So
have
would it
trucking
be a-
as well. That's
Would
right.
that be your employees or a third party?
It will be third-party trucking and trucking companies. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have your existing customers already identified?
We have many of them recruited. In fact, we attended a very interesting meeting about a year ago down in the Central Valley of California with a large independent box maker. And as we began talking about Northern Nevada, he stopped us. And he said, "You won't believe this, but I got an email this morning from a friend singing the praises of Winnemucca, Nevada." And we just all looked at each other, "You gotta be kidding." And he says, "Well, tell us what he said." So this former accountant friend of his went on to this, line. He read us the email off of his phone. So the reality is the customer base knows who we are. I was on the way into the meeting, I got an email from the editor-in-chief of the largest global paper-making magazine wanted to know how we were doing because we are being talked about. Winnemucca is now in the discussion in the global paper industry because of what we have underway.
So are you supplying the cardboard or are you supplying, or are you building the boxes?
What we're supplying is the 3 sheets. So we'll make the large roll of paper on the outside, the paper on the inside that they flute to create this bridge, and the paper on the inside. And so each of those gets shifted in enormous, 3,000-pound rolls, and they go down to the box makers who then create that pattern, glue board on either side, and then that becomes the raw material for the box. So ours is the paper. We hand it off to box makers who finish the job.
And you said the box makers in California?
They're all over.
Oh, they are?
They are all over. Many of them are interested in this location because it's closer to them than any other place they might have perceived. But there's box makers in Salt Lake City, there's box makers in Boise, there's box makers in Eastern Oregon, all of whom will have a new node of supply much closer than their current suppliers.
The reason why I asked that line of question is there's a company called Uline in Reno.
Yes.
And they're the largest purchasers of boxes, right?
Yes, they are. Yeah, we know Uline.
That would help us in the state of Nevada, so. All right. Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval of Crossroads paper.
Holman Havens or Havens like to move that we move the sales tax abatement, modified business tax abatement, personal property tax abatement, real property tax abatement for Ingenia Chartam LLC.
Cisco, second.
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against, nay? Hearing none, the motion passes. Congratulations, sir. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. Hey, Michelle. My sister knows there's will be some job openings.
You forgot it's logistics and radio.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, my sister.
Maybe she could be like the cheap paper supply, cheap paper.
Quality control. That's what she used to do. Eric.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Man, it's the longest meeting. All right, you guys, you're welcome to stay. I think you've already made a decision.
We appreciate the invite.
Good thing we didn't buy him dinner.
All right, we will move on to agenda item number 8, workforce innovation for a new Nevada WINN fund programs for board approval. We'll kick it off with 8A.
All right, good afternoon, Governor Lombardo, Lieutenant Governor Anthony, Secretary of State Aguilar, members of the board. For the record, I'm Natalie Brown, Vice Chancellor for Workforce Development and Community Colleges with the Nevada System of Higher Education. I'd like to first start by expressing my profound gratitude for the unwavering support and collaboration between NSHE and the GOED office. The WINN Fund in particular has been instrumental in the creation, customization, and expansion of our programs in critical need areas that align with GOED's target industries since its inception nearly a decade ago. Currently, for the legislative biennium ending June 2025, we have 10 active projects with a total funding of approximately $6 million. Today, we are excited to present 3 new programs for your consideration. These include a logistics and operations training program through the College of Southern Nevada and 2 early college programs at Truckee Meadows Community College focused on auto and diesel and machining. Together, these programs require a total of approximately $1.5 million in funding. I want to emphasize the significant impact of your support and investment in our workforce programs with the Nevada System of Higher Ed. This investment not only strengthens Nevada's workforce ecosystem, but also shapes the future of our communities by providing necessary training for high demand, high wage industries
At this point, I will turn over to my colleague at GOED, Elaine Silverstone, Director of Workforce Development, to provide further details. And again, thank you for your attention.
Great, thank you. Elaine Silverstone, Director of Workforce Development here at GOED for the record. Good afternoon, Governor Lombardo, Lieutenant Governor Anthony, Secretary of State Aguilar, and esteemed members of the GOED Board. It's my privilege today to welcome our partners from ENSHE representing 3 industry-led workforce training programs in target industries of our state plan. Working closely with my ENSHE partner in all things workforce, Dr. Natalie Brown, we are here to recommend and ask your consideration of WINN funding for these programs that aim to bring about a skilled and ready workforce in areas of economic diversification that are a focus of our work. Apologies that Dr. Frank Woodbeck from CSN could not be here with us today, but we're very pleased to introduce Dan Flick, who is the Executive Director of Advanced Manufacturing, to represent this first program. The College of Southern Nevada requests $376,004 for a logistics and operations training initiative that will provide short-term training for logistics automation and integration technicians at both the CSN North Las Vegas campus and the upcoming Westside Education and Training Center set to open in early June 2025. Funding for this program will reach as many as 30 students per year and will provide instructional capacity for complete logistics labs, administrative and promotional support. There are 100 jobs in this area available at Finley Automotive Group and Sunshine Minting, and with endorsement from the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. You will find the complete WINN application for this program in section 8A of your materials. And now some words from Dan Flick, please.
Hi, I'm not Frank. I don't know if you guys know Frank Woodbeck from CSN, but he sends us, I think he's at an ENSHE meeting or something right now, but this came to me about almost 2 years ago when I first got into the Valley, and they were looking at some training, and I was doing some research around the country and looking at some of the logistics training that's going on. And what we've got at College of Southern Nevada in our mechanical technology, our engineering technology, and also our advanced manufacturing kind of dovetails with all of the components and all of the competencies that are listed in the equipment, the training equipment that we're asking funding for. So one of the good things about using this equipment and the related curriculum that goes with it and the certifications that can come along with it too is that equipment can also be used for other training too. So it's not just all inclusive non-inclusive, but we can use that equipment for all the other types of training that goes on. This is more of an integrated package. And this is what a lot of the companies like Target, Amazon, and some of the larger logistics companies are looking at. So they're really invested in this type of training and then getting this integration going with logistics. And most of it's just package handling, material handling, and then processing. So a lot of sensors, a lot of HMIs, human machine interface, logic controls, motors, drives, and anything you can imagine to get stuff around. So this is a good fit for getting people trained and certified specifically for logistics, because I think there's probably at least 30 or 40 companies within a 10-mile radius of here that could use people that know this type of stuff. So
thank you, Dan.
yeah, Dan Flick for the record. I just wanted to say that.
What was the first name?
Dan.
Dan?
Yeah.
So I don't know who's better to answer this. This is Governor Lombardo for the record. Ms. Silverstone or you, Dan? In the application, it says there are 100 jobs in the area available at Finley Automotive Group and Sunshine Minting. And you're talking about conveyor systems that we're making reference to?
Anything in industrial maintenance. So it can be anything from hydraulic, pneumatic, it could be electronic, it could be electrical, it could be motors, motor controls, programmable logic controls, anything to do with automation, anything to do with logistics or basic manufacturing.
Well, I understand that for the sunshine venting piece, but how would it be utilized by Finley Automotive?
I don't know. I wasn't privy to that. I'm not sure what that refers to as far as that goes.
Okay.
Because most of the companies that look at this are most of the companies that have product that they're gonna package and they're gonna ship, they're gonna disseminate.
So Elaine,
Yes.
he mentions several other companies. Well, how do we, does the justification come because you have existing companies that are requesting? I mean, how does it go to Finley and Sunshine?
Finley and Sunshine were the letters of support provided for
Oh, were the
the
letters?
application. So you would see those letters in the package.
Approximately 1.
Gentleman, Tyler Porter, CFO, who signs the letter for Finley, does state, including logistic operations specialties in his letter. But as Dan added, these are just 2 who got letters of support for the application, recognizing that there are 30 or more logistic operations in the region that would benefit from this training program.
Longevity.
Yes, Elaine.
Okay. All right. Mr. Aguilar.
Yes, Cisco, how likely is CSN able to meet the capacity for the demand of this? I know there's been students who've had a hard time getting classes at CSN. So I just want to bring on a new program, bringing on funding. What's your capacity to be able to meet the expectation?
Well, right now, a lot of the capacity for this program or this certification, a lot of the students are going through a lot of the content that's already there. So I don't think it would be that, that wouldn't be a big stretch to get to that number.
I'm just saying students are trying to get classes at CSN and they're unable to at a basic level.
Oh, yeah.
So when you start talking about this, what's your capacity to meet the expectation?
Well, we should, with the 4 different units, we should have the capacity within the year or so. And that kind of is contingent upon a couple things too. And I'm running into this with the advanced manufacturing program, but the trying to find instructors is pretty tough. Just like it is hard to find employees right now. Can't imagine how it is trying to find instructors that know the content and then also have experience in it too. So that's kind of so if anybody knows anybody.
So are we taking a gamble by this investment by not having the instructors or the professional staff to train the students?
Oh, well, we're going to add any instructors. We're going to utilize the existing instructors that we have as far as that goes for the program.
And if I may interject, Elaine Silverstone, for the record, $13,500 as part of the budget is specifically for the training and certification of these 3 instructors that will provide the training for which the application speaks.
Any other questions?
Yes, Governor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. In the application, you specifically note.
Who's speaking, please?
Oh, sorry, Joan Ebert for the record. Manufacturing Skills Standards Council and Certification Technician Supply Chain Automation. Is CSN planning on becoming one of the regional testing centers? And the reason why I ask is because the Clark County School District actually had looked at that certification a few years ago, and there wasn't a regional training center in the area. And so they made a determination to move to the SACA, which is Smart Automation Certification Alliance. So I'm looking for a continuum K-12 higher ed.
Yeah, so the MSC cert, there's a couple other certifications in there too, and some of the SOC certifications are on the way toward that certification. So I think there's a PMMI, there's another couple of different types of certifications too. But and the reason they didn't go for the MSSC, Manufacturing Skills Standards Council, was because there is no training facility around here. I think the closest one is in, I think, Indiana, for that type of training. But we could be, just like we are with HOS certification, a regional certification center for MSSC. So that might be an add-on, a return on investment, a little bit, something, people can travel here to get certified doing this stuff too. So hopefully that might be something that is on the horizon.
I'm sorry, follow up.
Awesomeness. room?
Say what?
Are we allowed to say Haas in this room?
I wouldn't.
Never mind.
It's funnier than some numbers.
Are we talking about avocados or are we talking about?
Go ahead, Ms. Stevens.
Secretary got me thinking, if you're moving three existing instructors or professors or personnel over to this program, does that create, is there a plan to backfill? To his point that there is difficulty getting access to classes, is there a plan to?
I think we can move directly to the program because that parts of the program they're already existing as far as mechanical technology and some of the other advanced manufacturing courses. So those components are already there. So it wouldn't be really moving somebody directly to that program, whether it's a student assigned to the program, but that would be part of the ongoing training for all the students. So this would be something that would be a little additional to what they're getting now. And then they could concentrate on that.
So Sasha, for the record, so wouldn't it be 30 new students a year that would be benefiting from the program? It'd be 13 students that get additional training.
Well, it could be 30 new students, but most likely it would be existing students that will be getting that extra training. Or, excuse me, I'm sorry, also, Dan, for the record, we also would have, short-term training specifically for that. So people that are already in the industry that want to go through that type of training, that seems to be pretty prevalent.
Elaine Silverstone for the record. In our preparation of the application, Dr. Woodbeck and I spoke at length, and I apologize, he's not here to add this layer, but he speaks about representing those 30 students very much as a minimum, and that the growth for the program is really inherent in the need that they have at the campus now. So he represented the 30 very much as a minimum.
Yeah, I guess I have concerns about this request, given no understanding what the capacity is for the school to meet the obligations of its current students. You can't meet those obligations. You have trouble hiring instructors, but now you're going to put a new program, take additional funding, and say you're going to meet the capacity and expectations of this. I'm confused. So I'm just being directly honest with you.
Yeah.
Sure, I understand your concern. This is a theme, Elaine Silverstone for the record. I do hear this theme across the institutions that we work in terms of funding, where it's been a challenge to find people from the industry that can otherwise make more money in the industry than they can if they come into the classroom. And so it's a challenge that we work innovatively to solve. I believe Dr. Woodbeck believes he has the staffing solution for this program, that he has the 3 staff members in mind for the training. But I recognize your concern. It's a real one that we're trying to address in the workforce space in terms of bringing people from outside the industry, from the industry inside to teaching, inside to the instruction.
It's like saying you're at McDonald's and you make cheeseburgers, but now you're going to serve filet mignon. It's like, I don't understand. If you can't make the basic cheeseburger, how are you going to serve the specialty?
You mind?
Please, Natalie, thank you.
Natalie Brown for the record. As far as the capacity for College of Southern Nevada, if it's general education, some other type of training, any other concerns that you have in that regard, I'd be happy to discuss that with you after the meeting.
A couple of different.
As far as advanced manufacturing and some of these additional layers, the faculty in these programs would not be new. It would be adding on some additional value add to the programs the students are already receiving, as well as the capacity to be able to do a standalone certification in some of these high demand areas that are needed by whether that's Finlay or Sunshine Minting. So as far as being able to complete a program such as this, the ability and the capacity is already there. This is really adding, like I said, that value add for those individuals who are already seeking out either this certification standalone or value add to the program that they're already going through. That helps.
Ms. King.
So what type of promotion are you doing in high schools? Because this is representing those who are already CSN students.
Yes. We're working right now with several of high schools doing some dual enrollment with advanced manufacturing. So this would kind of lead into that too.
Elaine Silverstone for the record, if I may add an anecdote that's been one of my favorite to observe so far. This goes the relationship with the Center for Excellence and Clark County and the CTE program. I've observed the engagement where like almost like a speed dating. They literally bring students who've come through the training to CCSD where they bring employers to meet their future workforce. And it's been very impactful and exciting. I imagine that there'd be the relationship that Dan has with Tristan Hayes, for example, the CTE liaison from CCSD, that would continue in this sector as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I made a question out of respect for the record. Listening to the logistical challenges on this, and earlier we talked about this a limited amount of money for the WINN fund, $10 million. If it's approved and the money gets allocated to them, is there a life to this approval? And what I'm wondering is if we approve this amount of money and the logistical challenge is not overcome, at what point does the money go back to the WINN fund so we can make it available to other potential programs? So is there a lifeline to each one of these approvals that we have?
May I ask for you to add a little more to the question? So I
Sure. So today,
answer it well.
May
Right.
23rd, 2024. How long do you get to get this program up and running? And if you can't overcome those challenges, when does it come back to the GOED board and say, okay, we're putting this money back into the WINN fund so we can give it to another program that can get up and running?
Thank you for that added context, Elaine Silverstone, for the record. My experience with the 10 funds the 10 projects that are working now and all that I've learned from the historical projects are that you have through the biennium period, so in this case through June 30th, 2025, to use the money and deliver the job placement outcomes that you acknowledge in your agreement that you would sign with award. In the case of the money, it's use or lose, you use it in the period, but I have seen several, many cases where amendments have been applied to allow for the extension of meeting the job metrics before they close the account. Does that answer your question or get to it?
It's sort of kind of.
Nice.
Okay.
To that, Natalie Brown for the record. One of the other areas that Ms. Silverstone has been really great is partnering with NG and the projects to do regular check-ins, say, where are you at on your outcomes here? What kind of progress, any other support that we can provide? And then working backwards from that deadline of June 2025 on that delivery date to say, what can we do to help support? So I really appreciated that as well, because it helps, not only hold the institutions accountable to those outcomes that they have outlined in each of these plans, it also then helps keep me informed as to where each of our institutions are with these WINN funds. So both of us together help make sure that we hit those targets.
Good. And Governor, if I may just make one last comment. This looks like a great program, but we had a great discussion about wages earlier. We approved the money towards this. It's $18 an hour for those jobs.
I do believe.
Workers make 17. Poll workers make $17.
Yeah, so for
You know, what's that job right now?
salary, company 3, so
So,
you're,
hold on,
yes,
just to build off, for the record, Governor Moore, build off Mr. Speck's comment. So were you saying that in a negative context? Is that what we're approving, something that we don't support as a agency, or?
Now, I'm asking a personal question, I guess. I'm trying to understand, and we had this whole discussion about wages earlier. And should we reevaluate our abatements because it may not be comparable with real estate prices, things of that nature? So we had that whole great discussion for abatements. It might be worthwhile to have that whole same discussion for WINN fund. And maybe I'm misinterpreting it, please correct me, but when I look at the bottom of this page, it says the average hourly wage for these job hires is $18. I'm just wondering, is there potentially WINN programs down the road that may come to us that would be at a higher wage that we could use those funds? I guess that's my question.
If you look at the other two, they are at a higher rate.
Right.
So, but are you referring that we should limit the WIN programs to higher wage training?
Yeah, respect to the right. Yes, Governor, goes to my question earlier when we were going over the metrics is, should we have some sort of a criteria on these WIN funds?
Right.
To make sure that the money that the state approves for us to give out in the WIN funds is prudently being used to the best of our abilities. And it was a poor example, but the one he gave earlier is if we approve these today and we go down, 10 million goes down to 2.6 million. There's only 2.6 million left between now until it's approved again, right? Who knows? The next meeting and the meeting after that could have been a great program, and there was somebody coming in at $35 an hour.
Right.
So that was my only point that I wanted to point out to the board, is that we through this today, it's $18 an hour on these jobs.
So Elaine, are you aware of thresholds?
Elaine Silverstone for the record. I know that the statutory requirement for WIN funds is that it is a certain threshold of the average wage. I do not have front of mind, and I'd be happy to report that back, what that is for logistics. But I'm glad that you called out earlier that for Finley Automotive, they're offering $22 hourly as the minimum average wage. And that RTC's relationship with this particular application is that they will serve companies throughout the region, which is why I had initially presented it as an endorsement, that they work with companies throughout the region, and they report their hourly wage as $29 hourly. So this application does meet the statutory requirements for meeting the threshold for what the salary should be in terms of this example.
By $18.
Well, it is true that Sunshine Winds Inc. put in their letter 18 as one of the employee letters of support, but to make a stronger application, the additional letters are included to show the breadth and the range for which this industry can pay.
Go ahead, Mr. Burke.
And perhaps it's what we need to address in the application itself, sir, is that if this is the average wage that they hire at out of the gate, oftentimes when we have any industry that comes to Nevada, we address an average wage. So today I'm going to round and say that the rate is about $30 an hour, recognizing that there's some entry level wages that require training that might be at $22 an hour. And other people, once they've received that training, might be at $45 an hour. And I'm not wondering if we need to be, this application needs to be more illustrative of what the range is that whether this is what they hire at, or in fact, if this is a range that would, and Mr. Speck's concerned about, right? So do we want to be promoting jobs that are considerably under what we desire? I don't think we want to do that.
So
I'm concerned that we're not asking for the right information.
So, the request is 376,000. What is the hurdle if we defer this till we get the answers to our questions?
For me, I would.
Any one of you.
Yes, of course. Elaine Silverstone for the record. I would suggest the time that it takes to order the equipment, set up the program, build the program so that it can begin with the next semester as it may be, and then deliver the workforce for these employers in this sector. It's just simply that, the deliverable of ordering the equipment, setting up the program, and starting the training for students who then become workers.
All right, so I'll make a motion under agenda item 8A to defer the decision to the next GOED meeting to receive the answers to the questions.
Second, Havens.
Dr. Havens makes a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right. So Dan, you're aware of the request?
Yes.
Okay. We'll move to agenda item 8B. Request approval to enter into an agreement with Truckee Meadows Community College / Ace High School for an auto diesel early college high school program.
Great. Elaine Silverstone for the record. I invite Dr. Kimberly Harrell, based in the Carson City office, to join us at the table. Thanks. can see you perfectly. Thank you so much. Elaine Silverstone, Director of Workforce Development, for the record. I'm delighted to welcome another valued NSHE partner from Truckee Meadows Community College, Dr. Kimberly Harrell. Dr. Harrell is Dean of Technical Sciences at the William N. Pennington Center of Applied Technology at TMCC in Reno. She oversees certificate and degree workforce training programs in advanced manufacturing, apprenticeship, welding, machining, HVAC, refrigeration, automotive, diesel, construction management, and architecture, including dual credit programs in diesel machining and architecture. And with expertise like that, I'm pleased to represent 2 WINN applications for your consideration with Dr. Harrell from TMCC. Excuse me. The first, as you'll find in section 8B of your materials, is for an accelerated early college auto diesel program requesting $825,000 that will train students through a series of industry-driven certifications and TMCC program pathways by providing necessary equipment to deliver the curriculum and train instructors accordingly. Northern Nevada has an expansive network of transportation services, warehousing, construction, and mining that all benefit from trained and skilled diesel technicians. There are 1,710 jobs at Velocity Truck Centers, Freightliner, Peterbilt Truck Parts and Equipment, Empire Count Southwest, PAP Group, Silver State, and Quorum Buick Cadillac. Please welcome Dr. Harrell, who will share more about this first program for your consideration.
Thank you, Elaine. For the record, Kim Harrell, Dean of Technical Sciences, Truckee Meadows Community College. Greetings, Governor Lombardo, Lieutenant Governor Anthony, and Secretary of State Aguilar, and members of the board. The TMCC ACE Accelerated Early College Auto Diesel Program will enable ACE high school students to earn 13 workforce training certificates by the time they graduate from high school. This includes 10 industry-driven NC3 certifications, which are a hallmark of job readiness. This investment will ensure our students are trained on the latest industry technology, making them highly employable. This program trains students for living wage jobs with upward career mobility. In the state of Nevada, the median income for technicians is $61,950 per year to start. This is $7,500 higher than the U.S. median income for technicians. This one-time infusion of dollars will attract full classes of diverse students, thereby adding to capacity. The employers provided support letters for this proposal, indicating there is a need to hire 1,710 technicians over the next 5 years. In the state of Nevada, the need for technicians is projected to grow 15% through 2030, outpacing the U.S. growth rate of 1%. The training program also aligns with the Nevada Tech Hub designation, supporting the mining industry's workforce needs in the lithium-ion loop, providing quality, accessible, accelerated training for diesel technicians. This proposal will support GOED's efforts to assure the logistics and mining companies entering the state that there is a sufficient workforce awaiting them. These companies made up 20.9% and 2.4% respectively of the companies that GOED assisted over the last 11 years. The dollars invested today will fuel Nevada's transportation and logistics workforce for many years to come. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to present this proposal to you today for your review and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
We have any questions of Dr. Harrell?
Sure.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate the partnership between TMCC and ACE High School. I know ACE High School does a really good job of building the future workforce at a younger age. So it's pretty incredible to see this happening.
Thank you.
Bob, you want to add any color to the conversation?
For the record, Bob DeRoos, Director of ACE High School. Thank you for those kind comments. We've been plugging along at this for over 20 years, and the relationship with TMCC and Dr. Harrell makes a big difference for all our students' lives every day. So it's a job that we like, and we really like turning out kids who turn out and be good employees in our programs of construction, transportation, machining, manufacturing, and architecture.
So for the record, Governor Lombardo, Dr. Harold, can you hear me?
Yes,
Were you listening to the previous conversation at the earlier request?
yes, I heard the previous conversation.
Okay, just to build off what Cisco Aguilar had asked earlier of College of Southern Nevada, are you having similar issues as compared to students having availability at the lower level classes of being able to get into classes? If they're
We
at
have robust,
TCC?
excuse me. Yes,
Go ahead.
Kim Harrell for the record. We do have robust enrollments right now, but we are meeting those demands, particularly in the ACE programs that are mentioned here. We do have additional capacity. We envision that we will reach full capacity with this proposal if we are able to expand our equipment so that we can provide enough hands-on training for our students.
Okay. Any other questions? So Elaine, as a matter of simplicity, let's fold in state C also into the request for the motion. If you want to provide a narrative on the difference in discipline from machining to auto diesel, want to go ahead with that? And we can take it as a joint item.
Perfect. Elaine Silverstone here from GOED for the record. Our third and final WINN application for your consideration today is again an industry-led workforce training program at TMCC. Similar to the program you just heard. TMCC seeks to support another vital accelerated early college pathway in machining. In section 8C, you will find a complete application requesting $300,000 for an accelerated early college machining course that will expand access to the program, market it, and modernize equipment integral to match the core competencies taught in the industry and to what program completers will encounter in the field of work. Funding will reach as many as 17 students and ongoing. There are 35 machining jobs at employers Guy-Ford Decor, Advanced Precision, Legacy CNC, and Hamilton Company. Thank you for your consideration.
Any questions of Dr. Harold? Raymond?
Governor, if I may, it's a respect for the record, just for consistency between the two programs. Again, I'll point out on this program, and before I point it out, I'm all for education. As you know, I chair communities and schools. Love to see our kids get trained.
Thank you.
And whatever, but for consistency, pointing it out, if you look at the wages here, $17.50, $17.50, $18, $21.50. So I'm just wondering, for sake of consistency, should the first and third programs be put together for review?
The first and third?
The first one we looked at, we've asked for them to come back to us. You have the same challenge here as far as the hourly rate. It's the only point I'm making.
Okay.
Cisco, for the record, I just say the only distinguishing fact between A and C is the age of the actual student. And so this is a student who has not yet entered the workforce, who would be trained to be able to enter the workforce at that rate, but also have the opportunity to go into higher education with a greater skill set to advance that age or that earning opportunity. That's the only distinguishing factor I would say here that we should consider.
And Dr. Anthony, if I could add, there's a big demand for these jobs up in that area. So to get a jump start on getting these kids trained is, I think, very important, especially for them, because they're going to get out of high school with, a good paying job that they can advance in. So I support these two applications completely.
Elaine Silverstone for the record, if I may add, in the application, you may find in the back, and if I can hand it to you for ease. In fact, for Reno and Nevada, the salaries, the wages that these companies suggest are higher than the national average. Now, you have mine in your hand. Yes, thank you so much.
You have it memorized, Brad?
Got it memorized.
I did not have it memorized. So just for example, Dr. Howell provided this really helpful resource that's in your supplemental materials, for which local wages for machinists for the United States, the annual would be 48,510, whereas in Nevada, the state of Nevada, 47,800, and in Reno, exceeds both of those, the annual wage is 49,450. So it stands that these employers are providing wages that serve this data point. They are this data point, if I may. Thank you.
I would just bring it back to the conversation we were having earlier about having access to what the average wage is. Sorry, Sasha, states the record. It's past the time that meeting's supposed to end. I just bring it back to the point that Ms. Tony made earlier about having access to the average wages per county when we're considering agreements, what the impact would be.
Well, we know it's higher in Reno.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, yeah, that's a point well taken. Any further questions or discussion?
Just question, how long is this program, training program?
May I ask?
Which one? So,
The third one?
see,
May I
Training
ask, as a friend of mine? Dr. Harrell, may I ask you to address the question brought from the room? How long is the duration of the machining program?
Yes, the ACE early college program starts in their sophomore year and ends in their senior year, so 3 years. They earn industry recognized credentials within the first year of the program and throughout the entire program. And in fact, recently we had commencement and our ACE high school students got 25 awards before they even graduated from high school, which is happening on June 7th. So.
yeah, we keep hearing about Ace High School. All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval of both A, B, and C, if the motion would define that separately.
Yeah.
We deferred A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Oh, I said A, I'm sorry, I meant B and C.
Just go, Governor. Motion to approve items 8B and 8C.
Can you further define?
8B is in the amount of $825,000 for the Truckee Meadows Community College and Ace High School for an auto diesel early college high school program. And item 8C, which is to approve a Truckee Meadows Community College Ace High School for machining early college high school program in the amount of $300,000.
Perfect. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Do you have a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Hearing none, motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job, Millie.
Thank you.
All right, we will move agenda item number 9, board member comments. Do you have any comments independent of the previous items or inclusive of the previous items by any board members? James, you don't have anything to say, Jay?
Well, I want to applaud you for your dedication to this program, Governor. You have added a nice dimension to our communication and our care for the program. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 10, Governor Lombardo's comments. I want to just for the record, Governor Lombardo, build off of what Mr. Barrett had just said. I appreciate the pushback and the questions presented. Nothing's more frustrating for me. Hopefully you can see it in how I conduct meetings for the board to be a rubber stamp. So I think it's good that we're taking in consideration of the tax base and our constituents and doing our due diligence. With that said, I will move on to agenda item number 11, second opportunity for public comment. Do we have any public comment there in Carson City?
No, Governor.
Do we have any here in Las Vegas? No comment?
Julie Carter for the record, Southern Nevada Trades High School. And we are so excited for our partner ACE and so grateful for the support.
Thank you. We have anybody on the phone or online? She had no idea what we were talking about.
She stayed awake.
All right, we'll close the second opportunity for public comment and move for adjournment. We have a motion? Motion. Who is that? Mr. Speck, we have a second. Sasha,
Second.
we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. We will close our meeting. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.